How's it going, everyone? So we had an interesting study come out of the Centre for Independent Studies a week or so ago, just regarding Australia's attitudes towards immigration. I'm just going to go over it briefly here and just say a few things because I think a lot of you out there are going to be very interested in what the study had to say. See the title? Polling shows we are unlikely to see Australia splinter. And we have a look at the research. Our latest research, including polling about attitudes to immigration in the nation's top 10% and bottom 10% of metropolitan postcodes based on income and education, found Australians are not starkly polarised on the topic and are actually more similar than different in their attitudes to the issue. Like a lot of people have been saying, there is broad support for a cut to immigration in Australia. Why we haven't cut immigration yet? We'll talk about that in a minute. But across postcodes, there was strong support with very healthy majorities for reducing immigration until infrastructure catches up with demand, implementing stricter English language and Australian values requirements to promote integration, and maintaining strong border protection policies. This shouldn't surprise anyone who is actually living in the real world. In fact, the only people who might disagree with this are the ruling elite, especially coming out of the media, academia, and the political elite, as well as the business elite. So Australians across the board support cuts to immigration. And the interesting thing about that paragraph there is that Australians also want immigrants to be more Australian. They want people to be more in line with Australian values, and they want people to be able to speak English fluently. I would imagine there's quite a lot of left-wing lunatics who would claim that that means Australia is the far right and the racist. The most significant finding, especially in the light of the Prime Minister's decision this week to cut Australia's migrant intake by 30,000 places, nowhere near enough, is that there was broad agreement and majority support regardless of postcodes for relieving congestion and population pressures. What a shock. People in the cities are sick of having more and more migrants flood in, so we have more traffic jams, more pressure on schools, and more pressure on other things, which I'll talk about again just in a minute. In the top postcode, 65% of residents and 77% in the bottom postcodes agreed that immigration should be cut or paused until struggling transport, schools and housing infrastructure catches up with demand. That is an overwhelming majority. It's disappointing they only talk about infrastructure here, because infrastructure is a little bit of a distraction from the real issues, but at least it shows how many people are completely against our current mass immigration program. Another reason people need to be against our current mass immigration program is that bringing in all these migrants, especially migrants with low skills, means that workers in Australia, our wages go down, especially the low-skilled wages. Whenever business says there's a skills shortage, all that really means is there's a shortage of workers willing to do the job at the price that business wants. Of course, on the other end of the spectrum, all these third world migrants tend to vote for the left-wing ALP party as well. Along with that, there's one really big thing, and I'll let Miss Wilkie from the Centre of Independent Studies explain it.
Yes, so we asked what people felt about maintaining a policy of non-discrimination, and these were the results that were of most concern to us. So 53% in the top support maintaining a policy of non-discrimination, and only 33% in the bottom support maintaining a policy of non-discrimination. Now, I certainly don't want to see a policy of non-discrimination abandoned, but again, I think this goes back to the cultural concerns that people have and the changing patterns of migration that have happened for over a number of years.
Let me explain that for you. that means an overwhelming majority of people in a lower income bracket supports a discriminatory immigration policy. One of the things that people are really concerned about is culture, and another way of saying culture is race. So it's not surprising that people in the lower income areas are more concerned about cultural pressures and would be more likely to support a discriminatory immigration system, because this is where a lot of these new developing world migrants and refugees tend to go, plus the people in the higher income areas who also happen to be more likely to live in white areas tend to be a little bit more politically correct. But that's another discussion, and that is a big discussion that we have to have around immigration, because culture and race are extremely important. But back to the article. The good news from our polling is Australia does not appear to be in imminent danger of experiencing toxic social polarisation and political disruption over immigration based on conflict in attitudes between elite and ordinary Australians. I disagree with this. Yeah, sure, they're looking at attitude differences between higher income and lower income people, but the true elite in our Australian nation, the true elite, people who actually control our country, i.e. the ruling political class, the academia, and the mainstream media, the people who dominate mainstream media, these people are all completely against cutting immigration and will never support a discriminatory immigration system. Also in that is the big business, but those three, the ruling political class, the ruling academic class, and the ruling media class, these are the people who actually control Australia, and these are the ones who are preventing immigration cuts. They're preventing politicians, or they're preventing a real policy change in Australia from a high immigration system to a controlled, limited immigration system. So yeah, broadly speaking, Australians support big cuts to immigration, but the true ruling elite do not, and that's why we still have a huge amount of people coming to this country every year, despite the fact that everyone wants it to be cut. However, the crucial implication for immigration policy is that policymakers need to respect and represent the concerns that are shared by the majority of metropolitan voters. Damn right. If the immigration program is to retain public support and thus remain politically sustainable, governments must respond to public concerns about urban congestion and social cohesion, i.e. culture, i.e. race, concerns that are shared by Australians at the top and bottom of the pile. Exactly right. And this is why in the latest news poll, One Nation were polling now at 8%, and the other, so anyone but the big three and One Nation, is at 9%. That means anyone but the big three is polling at 17%. That's a lot of people who are really pissed off with the establishment. Idiot left-wing commentators love to talk about the centre and that the Liberals can win the next election by going to the centre, some mythical centre. It is absolute rubbish. If the Liberals want to win the next election, they need to win the 17% over that are saying anyone but those above. And in order to win those people back, they need to significantly cut immigration. They need to build new power plants and ease cost of living pressures. But most of all, they need to significantly cut immigration. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to share this video around. Feel free to subscribe if you want to. All good if you don't. And I'll see ya when I see ya.